He wasn't even gone for a month before everything changed. They say a woman's worst enemy can be her mother-in-law. But nobody warned me about father-in-laws. My name is Claire. I'm 6 months pregnant, and hiding. Yes, hiding, from the same family I once felt proud to marry into. And all this began just 3 weeks after my wedding. Let me take you back. Edward and I got married in a quiet, beautiful ceremony. I was glowing with happiness, excited to start a new life with the man I loved. Just a month later, he traveled abroad for work. It was a big opportunity, one we both agreed he couldn't miss. We promised to keep in touch, and we did, for a while. But one morning, everything changed. I found out I was pregnant. I was thrilled. Nervous, yes, but thrilled. I wanted to tell Edward immediately, but he hadn't picked my last 3 calls. His messages had become shorter, more distracted. I figured he was just busy. So I told his family first. Big mistake. His father, Mr. Thomas, was the first to hear the news. He looked me in the eye and said, "A child already? That's fast." It didn't feel like a celebration. His tone felt cold. Like suspicion was already creeping in. That same evening, he knocked on my door. Alone. "Claire," he said, stepping inside without an invitation. "You need someone close to take care of you now that Edward's far away, someone mature." I blinked. "I don't understand, sir." He sat beside me, too close. His hand brushed my thigh. That's when I understood. And my stomach turned. I stood up immediately, shaking. "Sir, please, don't." He laughed. "I'm just offering you the kind of support my son is too young to understand." That night, I cried myself to sleep. I thought it was a one-time thing. Maybe he was drunk, maybe he wasn't thinking straight. But he came again. And again. And again. Each time, a new excuse. "You're looking too stressed, Claire. You need a massage." "I have money. Edward doesn't send much, does he?" "You're carrying my grandchild. You need a real man by your side." He never touched me fully, but his words cut deeper than any slap. I kept my distance. I started locking my doors. I stopped eating in the main house. And I stopped telling him anything. That's when the maltreatment began. He turned cold, even cruel. Suddenly, I was lazy. I was disrespectful. He began telling Edward things about me, lies. I'd see his calls come in, and I'd hear him say, "Edward, your wife doesn't even greet me properly. She's always on her phone. Are you sure she's faithful? She's gaining too much weight. Doesn't even care for herself." Then came the real blow. One morning, I woke up to banging on my door. It was Edward's younger sister and brother, with suitcases. "Pack your things," they said. "Edward said you should leave before he returns." I was stunned. What? He told me he was coming back next month. Why would he? They interrupted. Daddy told him everything. He knows the pregnancy isn't his. So stop pretending. I felt my knees buckle. The room spun. I was thrown out of my own home, like a stray dog. No calls. No warning. Just disgrace. My heart broke, not just from the humiliation, but from the pain of carrying a child and being accused of betrayal I didn't commit. I had no idea where to go. My parents were late. My only friend was Joy. She took me in without question. No judgment. Just care. Joy believed me. She knew I wasn't that kind of woman. She even warned me, "Claire, something is not right. You need to gather evidence. One day, Edward will know the truth." I didn't know what to say. Part of me still hoped he'd come back and ask me before passing judgment. But he didn't. He stayed away. And in that silence, I grew bitter. Still, I couldn't hate the baby growing inside me. His little kicks gave me strength. But deep down, I feared the day Edward would see the child. Would he believe the truth? Or would he destroy us both? What I didn't know was, the truth was about to come out in the most unexpected way. And when it did, it shook Edward to his core. I never thought a baby's face could be dangerous. But mine, my son? His face almost got me killed. Let me back up a little. After Edward's siblings threw me out, I moved in with my friend Joy. Bless her heart, she didn't even ask for details. She just made space in her small apartment and said, "Whatever happened, Claire, I believe you." I cried for hours that night. Not just for myself, but for the baby growing inside me. I kept touching my belly, whispering, "I don't care what the world says. I'll protect you." The months dragged on. Edward didn't call. Didn't message. Nothing. It felt like I died to him. The silence from him was deafening, but I couldn't bring myself to text him. What was I supposed to say? "Your father lied on me, kicked me out, tried to sleep with me, and you believed him?" No. I decided to let time speak. Let the baby speak. When labor came, it came hard. Joy rushed me to the hospital. There were complications, but by God's grace, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. And the moment I saw him, I froze. That nose. That chin. Those eyes. It was like Edward had been cloned. Even Joy gasped. "Claire, this child looks exactly like his father." Like, scary resemblance. I felt a strange mix of relief and pain. Relief, because now I had proof. Pain, because the father of this perfect little boy didn't even know he existed. I named him Elijah. My sunshine in the darkest storm of my life. Weeks passed. Then one evening, out of the blue, Edward's name popped up on my phone. I stared at it for a full minute. Was I dreaming? I picked up. His voice was cold. "Claire." I swallowed. "Edward." I saw the child. My heart skipped. What? I saw him on Joy's WhatsApp status. She posted him. "Is he yours?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean our son?" "Yes. He's mine, and yours." He went quiet. Dead quiet. Then he said the words that made my blood run cold. "My dad said the baby looks nothing like me. But Claire, this boy, he looks more like me than I do." I didn't say a word. He continued, voice trembling now, "He has my mother's birthmark. The one on her left shoulder. The exact same spot." I blinked. Even I hadn't noticed that. Then he said something unexpected. "I'm coming back. I already booked my flight." The call ended. 3 days later, Edward stood at Joy's door. He looked thinner. Paler. But the moment he saw Elijah sleeping in my arms, he dropped to his knees. "I messed up," he whispered. "Claire, I messed up so badly." I looked at him, eyes heavy with months of pain. "You threw me away without hearing my side." "I know," he nodded quickly. "I believed everything he said. He told me you were already pregnant before I traveled. That you were sleeping around. He even swore on his life." I scoffed. "Your father tried to sleep with me." His face dropped. "What?" "From the very first month you left. He promised to take care of me like you never could. I thought ignoring him would make him stop. Instead, he turned around and tried to destroy me." Edward looked like he'd been stabbed. But I wasn't done. He ruined everything. Our trust. Our peace. And you let him. His eyes filled with tears. "I want to fix this. Please. I want to be there for Elijah. For you. I already took a DNA test. Without you knowing." That startled me. "What?" "I got the results yesterday. 99.9% match. He's mine. Claire, I'm so sorry." He reached for Elijah, and for the first time, I didn't stop him. As he held his son, tears running down his cheeks, he whispered, "I don't deserve either of you. But I swear I'll spend my life making up for this." I watched him cry, and deep inside, my heart cracked open just a little. But something still didn't sit right. Why had Joy posted Elijah? She knew I didn't want drama. After Edward left that night, I asked her. She smiled quietly. "I posted that picture for one reason, Claire. I knew Edward would see it. And I knew he needed to see it with his own eyes." I stared at her. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me a folder titled, Thomas Evidence. Photos. Voice notes. Screenshots. Joy had been collecting proof all along. You think I'd let that old pervert destroy your life and get away with it, she said. This is just the beginning. He's going down. And just like that, war was declared. When Edward left my friend Joy's apartment that night, I wasn't sure what would happen next. He had cried. He had apologized. But in my heart, forgiveness didn't come that easily. He left me to rot. And worse, he let his father feed him lies while I was carrying his child. Still, something had changed. I saw it in the way Edward looked at Elijah, like he couldn't believe something so perfect could be his. Like a man seeing heaven after dancing with hell. 3 days passed, and then came the bombshell. Edward called me again. Claire. I've confronted him. I held my breath. Your father. Yes. I didn't plan to, but when I saw him, I couldn't hold it in. What did he say? Edward's voice shook. He denied everything. Said you seduced him. That you were the one who threw yourself at him when I traveled. Claire, he said Elijah was for one of your exes. That Joy is just covering for you. I felt my lips tremble with rage. He's sick. I know, Edward whispered. But don't worry. I recorded everything. He sent me the audio clip. Thomas's voice was all over the place, at first defensive, then insulting, then threatening. You're young, Edward. You don't know how women are. Claire is smart. Sweet-faced demon. Just like her mother, probably. My hands shook as I listened. It was him. Finally caught in his own venom. Edward didn't stop there. He sent the voice note to his siblings. You know, the same ones who packed my clothes like I was a criminal? They didn't call to apologize. But I saw their Facebook posts, each one suddenly flooded with motivational quotes about forgiveness and family. Fake peace. That's what guilt looks like when it wears makeup. But Edward? Edward declared war. First, he hired a lawyer. Not for a lawsuit, but to draft a restraining order. Thomas was to stay at least 200 meters away from me and Elijah. Then he called a family meeting. Not the usual hush-hush kind. This one was different. Extended relatives. Church elders. His mother's side. My late parents' family too. And Edward laid it all out. The recording. The DNA test. Joy's folder of evidence. Silence fell when he finished. Until one of the elders, his mother's older cousin, stood up. I always suspected Thomas, the man said. Even when his own wife died mysteriously, we kept quiet. But not anymore. My heart skipped. What? Edward turned to me, face tight. We'll talk about that later. But the room had already erupted into chaos. Accusations. Defenses. Whispers about land, infidelity, and secrets long buried. And in the midst of it all, I held Elijah tighter, shielding his little ears from all the noise. Later that night, Edward came back to the apartment. He looked exhausted, but more resolute. I'm sending him back, he said. I blinked. Back where? To the village. Our ancestral home. He won't stay in the city. He's poisoned everything here. I stared at him. Do you think he'll go? He has no choice. I've moved his name off every property in my name. The lawyer's helping. I gave him money to relocate. That's all. After this, he's no longer welcome in our home. It sounded like justice. But still, I asked, what about us? Edward looked at me with those tired eyes. Claire. I don't deserve an answer to that yet. All I'm asking is a chance to earn your forgiveness. I looked away. I wanted to scream yes. I wanted to scream no. I wanted to scream, period. But Elijah started crying at that moment, and like magic, his father was already reaching for him. And the baby, he stopped crying the second Edward held him. That's when I realized something I hadn't before. This wasn't just about me and Edward. It was about us. Me. Him. Elijah. And the broken glass we'd have to walk through to be whole again. That night, Joy gave me a long hug. "You're stronger than you think," she said. But I didn't feel strong. I felt scared. Because Thomas had agreed to leave. But something in me didn't trust him. And just days later, my instincts proved right. One morning, I opened my window. And found something that made my blood run cold. A small wooden carving. Twisted. Ugly. Smeared with red palm oil and blood. With a note tied around it. "You think this is over? I never lose." I thought the worst was behind me. I thought once Edward saw the truth, everything would fall into place. Love, forgiveness, peace. But that morning, staring at that thing by my window, I knew evil wasn't done with me yet. The carving was hideous, crudely shaped like a pregnant woman, with nails stuck into the belly. Blood, maybe animal, maybe not, I didn't even want to know, dripped from the neck. And the note? "You think this is over? I never lose." I screamed. Loud enough for Joy to drop her plate in the kitchen. She ran to my room and froze the moment she saw it. "Claire, this is ritual stuff. This is serious." My knees buckled. I sat on the floor, hugging Elijah to my chest like someone could snatch him any moment. "Why?" I whispered. "Why can't he just let me live?" Joy took the note, gloves on, and burned it. "We're not keeping this. Not in this house. I'll call a priest." That same day, Edward came rushing in. He didn't knock. He looked panicked. "I just got this." He shoved his phone in my face. It was a photo. Me. Elijah. Joy. Outside the hospital. Taken from a distance, like someone had been watching us. This was sent to my email anonymously. No message. Just the photo. My heart dropped. "He's stalking us." "I think so too," Edward said. "And I don't think he ever left the city. I think he faked his return to the village." Edward was furious, pacing the room like a lion. I should have known he wouldn't go quietly. "We need to go to the police," I said. He paused. "I already did. They said unless he harms us physically, their hands are tied." I couldn't believe it. What about emotional harm? Psychological warfare? Constant fear? But Joy wasn't about to sit and fold hands. She brought in a priest from her church, a strong, old man named Father Jude. He wasn't your gentle, soft-spoken type. He walked into the house like he came to do battle. He blessed every room. Poured anointing oil on every door and window. And then he turned to me and said, "You're dealing with more than family issues, my dear. This is a spiritual fight. And it started long before you came into this house." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He looked at Edward. "Your father's hands are not clean. You know that, right?" Edward nodded slowly. "There were always rumors. Even my mother's death, it wasn't natural. She just collapsed one night after an argument. Doctor said heart failure, but what? She was 39. No prior heart issues. She was healthy, vibrant, and she had just threatened to expose him for sleeping with a younger girl in the village." My heart twisted. "You think he—" "I don't want to think about it," Edward said. "But now, I can't ignore it. Father Jude gave us strict instructions. No eating food from strangers. No unannounced visitors allowed. No leaving Elijah with anyone outside our circle. He even gave me a small bottle of oil to rub on Elijah's forehead each night. I didn't ask questions. I just obeyed. For a while, it worked. No more carvings. No more creepy emails. No shadows lurking by the window. Edward moved us to a new apartment, gated, secured, private. And for the first time in months, I started to breathe again. Edward was trying, really trying. He took time off work. Bathed Elijah. Changed diapers, even though he gagged every time. He cooked, well, he tried, and he listened. Really listened. We talked long into the nights. About our dreams. Our fears. And the wounds we left untreated for too long. But just when I thought we were healing, Joy went missing. She had gone to get baby wipes and didn't return. At first, we thought maybe her phone died. But hours passed. Then a full day. Then the next morning, Edward got a call. It was from an unknown number. He answered on speaker. A deep voice spoke. "She talks too much. This is your first warning." My blood turned to ice. Joy. My Joy. The only person who stood by me when everyone else turned their backs. I fell to my knees. "Elijah," I sobbed, holding him tight. "God, please don't let her die because of me." Edward's fists clenched. He looked like a man unraveling. "I'm going to finish this," he said. "I'm going to end him." "No," I whispered. "Not like this. If you confront him without proof, without a plan, he'll bury us all." He paused. Then he nodded slowly. "Okay. Then we do it your way." "But Claire." He looked at me, tired, scared, but burning with resolve. "We protect our family. No matter what it takes." And so, the final phase began. We were no longer victims. We were about to become hunters. They thought I would break. They thought because I was a woman, pregnant, abandoned, I would disappear quietly. But they forgot something. Mothers don't run. They rise. And I was ready to rise, even if it meant walking through fire. After Joy went missing, I barely ate. Barely slept. Elijah sensed it. He cried more, clung more. I didn't blame him. His world had turned upside down, again. Edward and I were in survival mode. He became sharper. Calculating. He started tracing the anonymous emails and calls with the help of a friend in cybersecurity. I did something riskier. I called Thomas. I used a private line and blocked my ID. When he answered, I masked my voice. "You shouldn't have taken her," I said flatly. He chuckled. That disgusting, smug chuckle. "You're too late. She'll learn not to meddle in men's affairs." I clenched my jaw. "You're making a mistake. You already made yours when you married my son. You think I'll let a bastard inherit my bloodline? Never." I was trembling, but I pushed on. "I have evidence, Thomas. Everything. The voice notes. The stalking. The carving. If anything happens to her, I'll drag you through the fire myself." He laughed again. "You're bluffing." But he didn't sound so sure. That call was bait. And we didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, we got a ping. Edward's tech friend called. We traced the last email's IP. It's coming from an uncompleted building just outside Enugu. Industrial Road. Isolated. Edward grabbed his car keys. "We're going." I stopped him. "No. We're not calling the police." "We did. They said they'll come when they can. But I can't wait. Not with Joy's life hanging." We got there just before sunset. Edward and his friend moved like they'd done this before. Quiet. Careful. No sudden moves. I stayed back with Elijah in the car, heart pounding like war drums. Then I saw Edward freeze. Someone was inside. A woman, tied up, slumped in the corner. It was Joy. She was alive. Weak, bruised, but breathing. They carried her out, and I ran to her, sobbing. She whispered with a cracked voice, "He came here. Himself. Said he wanted me to disappear for a while. That Claire talks too much." But that was all she could say before passing out. We got her to a hospital. No internal injuries. Just dehydration, bruises, and fear. But now we had enough. Enough evidence. Enough witnesses. And Edward? He finally did what I thought he'd never do. He pressed charges against his father. And this time, Thomas wasn't so lucky. The police raided his hidden location. They found symbols. Carvings. Blood-soaked items. Even old photos of Edward's mother, some with markings drawn over her face. When the news broke, it scattered like wildfire. Respected businessman in Enugu arrested over ritual practices and attempted murder. His reputation? Shattered. His allies? Silent. His own siblings disowned him. At court, I didn't speak much. I let the evidence do the talking. But when asked if I had anything to say to him directly, I stepped forward with Elijah in my arms and said, "You called him a bastard. But look at him." Everyone in the courtroom gasped. Elijah turned his face to the judge, same chin, same brows as Edward. A mirror of the son Thomas tried to destroy. "He's the future you tried to erase," I said. "And he will grow knowing that his mother fought and won." The judge gave Thomas the maximum sentence under the charges. And just like that, the man who thought he ruled our world was caged like the animal he was. Months passed. Joy recovered fully. Elijah turned 1, his first birthday surrounded by people who loved him. Edward and we took things slow. He went for therapy. We did marriage counseling. We talked. We cried. We healed. One day, I asked him, "Do you still regret marrying me?" He took my hands, looked into my eyes, and said, "Every scar we carry led us here. I don't regret it, Claire. I regret not standing by you sooner. But I'm here now. And I'm never leaving again." That night, I watched Elijah sleep, and I smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. Because we weren't just survivors. We were warriors. And our story? It wasn't a tragedy. It was a rebirth.